Just had to get a sip of water. But hey, everyone, this is Robert. Excuse me. Great intro. This is Robert, and thank you for tuning into the podcast. And hope everybody's doing well out there and just staying cool from this heat. But today we're going to be chatting with Giselle Fernandez.
Hi. Yeah.
Yes. Hey, it's kind of like a thing with me where I kind of mispronounce names like constantly.
No, you
Excuse
nailed
me,
it. You got
possibly on the
it.
show. I just had a breakfast too. So yeah, off the cuff, the best type of, content. But anyways, thank you for joining me for this afternoon. Now,
Thanks for having me.
yep, anytime. I guess we could just go over like, the quick icebreaker, like how has it been going? How has this year been for you so far? Just the works. What you been up to?
Good. I've been picketing a lot lately. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, yeah, working the jobs, working the contracts that, we're allowed to work and yeah, it's been a good year.
Yeah, uh, totally. I know that's kind of like a big thing, but that's actually not going to be one of the focuses here. As much as I would like to talk about it, I know there's still a lot that's like hasn't been like negotiated, so it's kind of like, are we gonna go into a gray area, like, so I guess for now we'll just discuss, about fun stuff. Um, so. I'm not gonna ask like, oh, so how did you get started and blah 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 blah, but instead I'm just gonna go right into, your little background. So how is it, um, so I guess growing up, was this always something that you wanted to do, or like how would you describe like your background, like prior to starting voice acting?
It's a funny question because I can't really remember that much of a time prior to voice acting because I've been doing this since I was a kid. Um, and when I was younger and when I was doing it, I enjoyed it and it was very fun, but I don't think it was in my head of like, oh, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Uh, until I was an adult and I had already gotten all these unrelated degrees from college and moved out to LA and was like, I do know that I enjoy that and I miss doing that. And so I got back into it and it's just been wonderful ever since.
Awesome. So when you were doing it when you were younger, was it like, oh, I'm just kind of doing this for fun, like, just play pretend, make silly stuff, and now here you are, you know, this is your career now. So yeah, how did that transition go for you?
I don't know. Well, the reason I did it when I was a kid, the reason I got into it is because my family, my father worked in marketing and wrote commercials for a living. And whenever he needed a kid in a commercial, he would just throw me or my sister in the booth, and I fell in love with it. It was an interesting transition when I once I moved out to LA, going from only having done commercials and like stuff in that world to, oh, there's a whole other world of animation and video games and dubbing, which for some reason, like I was such a weeb when I was younger, and that actually hasn't stopped. But
Well, all of us are kind of weebs, let's be
but
honest.
like I was sitting there and I was watching all these anime and my brain didn't go, "Oh, that's a voice acting thing. I can do that." It was just like, "Oh, cool." Like it didn't click with me until I got out here and I started getting like those auditions and those callbacks and booking the jobs and I was like, "Oh, I got to figure out how to do this." So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's kind of like the same with me because like oh, actually, I'm not sure if you can notice. This is actually where I, do my little do screams and whatever chaotic noises you make behind the booth for money, but I mean for money. But we do it for fun. We love doing this, but I mean,
The money helps. Yeah.
yes. So it's kind of like the same with me because like I grew up like literally like here in LA like pretty much all my life. So it's
Oh.
I didn't really think that it was gonna be like um that like this is something that people do for a living. And just growing up watching people like Tom Kenny or Rob Paulson and a lot of different folks that I could just name all like the entire interview, but yeah, they're just like, oh, okay, so not only did Tom voice SpongeBob, but he's also like Heifer on Rocko's Modern Life, or like he was on the Powerpuff Girls, Adventure Time, and Rob Paulson has been around for like eons now. So I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, this is something that you can actually do. How do I do this? And then you can actually do this online and you can pretty much get your start remote. Like, if this was like a decade ago, it would have been way different, but now it's like, oh yeah, you could just pretty much do this in your pajamas. And yeah, how times have changed. Am I right?
Truly, in such a short period of time, it feels like from when I was a kid doing this to now, especially even the commercial world has changed.
Yeah, it's
Um,
more conversational. I was just talking about this with my previous guests. They want more conversational stuff. It's
oh
not
yeah.
like Sunday, Sunday, Sunday,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, the big promo. I
switching
mean,
to Geico or
I mean, there is still a market for those voices, but it's not
there is.
everything anymore, and it's a lot less. They're more few and far between, I'd say. Because everybody wants their product to seem relatable. That's why.
Exactly.
But it's actually we're starting to see a bit of a shift, even from that, because conversational has been sort of the like what everyone's been trying to do for the past few years in terms of marketing. Um, and I'm starting to see a trend a little bit more of like that of not the big like promo e-voices, like not that canned voice anymore, but and not necessarily conversational, but ironic, where employers are like, okay, kids these days know that this is a commercial and that they're being advertised to, so we have to acknowledge that. And it's an interesting trend. I think that's sort of going to be the new conversational read in a few years to come, is the sort of ironic, self-aware of being in a commercial type read.
Yeah. I remember back in my day,
Mm.
we used to imitate the Inner World trailer voices, the Don LaFontaine,
I mean, they're still fun to imitate. Come on.
the world of cartoon madness. Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So my brain. I was gonna say, like, you got a degree in theater and
Entomology.
entomology.
And
So yeah, like,
mm,
how would you say that having those degrees really helped you? Okay, saying that it really helped you. Oh, that sounds kind of mean, but how are
no,
they
no, no, that's
essential
fair.
to your career and just moving forward with VO and everything else that you've been doing?
I mean,
Yeah, how did they help you? That sounds really
uh,
whoa.
I mean, it was a part of my life where everybody figures out what they want to do at different parts of their life, and sometimes what you do for one chunk of your life is perfect for that chunk of your life, and then you move on to another thing later on. And for me, I mean, something that has always been true of me, and I think will always be true, is that I love learning. I love learning stuff. Um, so when I was in college, I was fortunate enough to live in a state where tuition was covered by the state. So I didn't have to worry about taking out loans and going into debt. Um, because Georgia has this great program that's sponsored by the lottery for people who graduate high school in the state of Georgia. If your GPA is a certain whatever and your SAT is whatever, whatever, and you go to an in-state school, at least at the time when I was in school, tuition was covered by the state, by this program. So when I was there, it wasn't so much like, what do I want to do with my life? More of, how can I take the best advantage of having this free education? And so for me was, I'm just going to study anything that I find interesting, and whatever clicks, clicks. And for me, that was entomology and theater, because it's always been a part of me and I can't ever leave it. But I don't know. I feel like doing that. I mean, I feel like it made me a more well-rounded person uh now, and it's cool to see. I don't know. It's a fun thing to talk about sometimes with people because a lot of people have no idea what entomology is. And then when they figure out what it is, they don't really know much about bugs. And I think it is important, no matter what you're doing with your life, with your career, to know a little bit about the world around you, because um, that helps you find a deeper respect for the creatures that we share this planet with. And I think that's important for actors to have, is, a general respect for living creatures. And especially as a voice actor, when you get to be all kinds of anything, I could play a cockroach on a show, and and it still be just as fun to me as playing like a little girl, or a teenage boy, or whatever it is. So I don't know, I'd say that's how that helped me.
Discovering your range.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like a lot to, digest and sink in. And especially with like, I know for theater, like you project and you basically move your entire body around. Like it's all like, it's boom, 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 and it's just
Yes.
this, ongoing, it's kind of like an adrenaline rush, but with VO, you'd still carry those into behind the booth, but it's, can't make too much noise, otherwise it's gonna pick up the microphone and you can't use that tape, which is,
Oh man.
it's a
Yeah,
shame.
the
Yeah.
amount of retakes I've had to do because I accidentally slapped a wall or knocked a water bottle over. I
Or
mean,
you
voice
knocked a
acting,
camera. It
voice,
happened.
yeah, voice acting is a very physical form of acting, and I think theater acting is the most portable over, because it shows you to use your whole body and it helps you develop your imagination. Um, but yeah, I mean, as long as you're, the only thing about voice acting is like it's all of that, but you have to stay on mic. So all of you can move except your head, you know? Like your face has to be here and then your arms can do whatever.
Yep, pretty
Yeah.
much. Um, so being a lover of like animation and cartoons like I am, what are some of your favorites growing up and even right now?
Oh, growing up. Um I mean, I was a Nickelodeon kid. I loved Nickelodeon.
Same.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
let's go.
When Avatar: The Last Airbender was first coming out, I was exactly the target audience for it. I was that age. I was like, 12, 13. And showing how old I am here. Um,
Boy,
and I,
yeah.
I I remember watching that show religiously. That was one of my favorites. Um, and that actually, uh, the kid who played Aang, had such a great he's such a great, like, timbre to his voice, and it's one that's in my range. To be quite honest, most of my preteen boy voices are inspired by him. I like, whenever I'm like, ooh, I can't quite get into that yet. Like, if I ever like lose it and I need a reference, instead of listening to a reference of me previously doing that voice, I have a reference of him that I just play, and it just quickly gets me back into it. Um, so yeah, Nickelodeon was my main love as a child.
Yeah. I don't think anything can top Avatar.
Truly.
Yeah. I mean, like as a kid, I grew up with SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents
Oh,
and,
well,
you
yeah,
know,
of course. Oh, I
and
loved
Eden and
Fairly
Eddie
Odd
and,
Parents.
Codename and I mean, like the
Midnight
more
Story, yeah.
like
Teen
I guess the
Titans.
bouncy stuff. Yeah, I got into Teen Titans later. I don't know why,
Really?
but I guess I just didn't really like I wasn't really into the anime or action stuff when I was younger, but now I definitely really
Mm.
like these shows. I don't know, it's kind of weird with me. Like I didn't really grow up watching like, superheroes or anything. Um Actually, funny thing is like I love Powerpuff Girls now, but back then I was like That's for girls. And plus, it's
Um,
superheroes.
Not your
Yeah,
cup of
I
tea
was
back
into
then.
like Dexter. Like, I didn't really watch Powerpuff very
Omelette du
much.
fromage, yeah.
Oh yeah. It's always that one episode. It's like I mentioned Dexter, and it's always that one episode.
It's the most
It's
iconic
the
one.
first episode. It's the first thing everyone says. It's like just say that, and then boom, that's when you know you're a '90s kid and you've watched Dexter,
Yep,
hands
exactly.
down, without fail.
It's just you know what someone says that, you know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Um, And it's also really funny too because like I guess with television or like with media that we consume, we kind of watch them and we kind of study them just to see just how much we've evolved and grown, and especially when it comes to the industry, because I know that we're like I said, with cartoons getting more complex and more there's a lot more layers to them. Like the
They
cartoons have been
explore a
getting a
lot
lot
more
more
serious topics now.
serious
Yeah.
topics too. Yeah, I think we kind of moved away from like, the Hanna-Barbera and more to like the more serious discussions and topics and yeah, just been getting a lot more grounded stuff. I mean,
Hmm.
not to say that we didn't get like, shows that were like down to earth. I mean, Hey Arnold is still one of my favorite shows
Oh,
out
one of
there.
the best shows out there. Yeah,
Yeah, but we've been
absolutely.
getting stuff like Amphibia, Owl House, Gravity
Hmm.
Falls,
Oh yeah.
Craig of the Creek,
I
and
mean, even
shows that
Adventure
are like
Time was pretty yeah.
Adventure. Oh, I'm just rewatching Adventure Time. Oh my
Oh, are
gosh.
you?
Yeah,
I remember that
because
was
it's
coming out
like,
when I was in college, and we were like, all of my
dude,
friends in college were like, we would get together and we would watch it together because it was
I
just so
remember when
good.
it first started, the internet just exploded, man. Oh my
Mm.
gosh.
Oh my goodness,
I think it
yes.
was around the same time that regular show came out and also
Mm.
My Little
Uh-huh.
Pony. So, those are kind of the
100%.
shows that kind of defined that kind of really
2010s.
were, yeah, at least the early 2010s, like early mid, but yeah, it still defined the 2010s decade regardless, especially Adventure Time. I consider Adventure Time to be like, how like The Simpsons was like the show that kind of was like it sort of defined the 90s? That's Adventure Time
Yeah,
for the new generation for
yeah.
me. I mean, like, we wouldn't have the shows that I mentioned if not for Adventure Time when
Oh, it
you
was
really think about
extremely
it.
influential.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it really
Like even
was.
even the animation style, like that
I
was
mean, now it's like, yeah,
yeah, it's that's more it's so common now is that
yeah.
style of animation because it worked so well.
There was another show on Cartoon Network called Gumball, which also had a very unique animation style.
Gumball. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember one called Chowder that was fascinating to
Oh,
me,
yeah.
where they animated it because it was like the patterns on their clothing would move while the character was moving. It was interesting. It was very interesting the like textures that they had in the show. It was very cool.
Yeah. And it was also created by somebody who worked on SpongeBob's, and it definitely
Oh,
carries
is
a
it
lot of that
really?
humor. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
the creator of the show he worked on SpongeBob. And I think he's done stuff like Harvey Beaks and the new Hanna-Barbera show. I can't remember, but
Cool.
yeah. I mean, I don't know, my brain. Neurodivergent. Yeah. I'm a
I get
Wikipedia nerd.
you.
Yeah. So anyways, and also, spiders, you seem to have an affinity for.
Oh, I love spiders. Yes.
Oh, okay, I love Spider-Man, but spiders, dude.
Aw. Well, I think they get a bad rep. I mean, like they're fine.
I
They're
mean, like,
fine.
I thought
Everybody's so
to be fair, though, I used to think that they're cool. I'm like, okay, what if I get bit by a spider? I could become like Peter Parker, Spider-Man. That was me as a kid.
Well, yeah. The reality is if you get bit by a spider, nothing's gonna happen. You're probably like,
Hmm.
like 9.5 times out of 10, unless like, it gets infected because you didn't clean it or put a band-aid over it, then you're fine. Especially, I mean, I'm assuming you're in North America.
Yeah.
Um, especially in
Oh,
North America.
okay.
This is a voiceover thing. I'm not going to lecture you about spiders, but spiders are really, there's nothing to be scared of for the, I mean, in this side, in this continent
Oh,
anyway.
yeah.
Um, Yeah,
No.
they're fine. Nobody has died of a black widow bite here in over 30 years. Brown recluse bites aren't actually usually as bad as people see them online because that's usually MRSA, actually. That's usually untreated staph. The like horrifying like skin gone like photos and stuff. Like most people don't get bit by brown recluses anyway because they're pretty reclusive. And then if they do, I mean, less than, I think it's something like 20% of people even have a reaction. So, people love to hate on spiders, but there's really not much they can do to you. And they're just good little friends. They hang around. They keep
Mhm.
the flies away.
Yes. Oh my
And
gosh,
flies
flies are
flies
actually
can
way more
actually
annoying.
do damage. Flies can actually kill you. Um, it's sorry, you didn't come here for an entomology lecture, but I'm giving you one anyway. The order of Diptera, which is the one in which flies are, is the most deadly order of animals in general. They kill more people every year than any other animal, mainly because of mosquitoes spreading disease. But flies can also spread disease mechanically if they land on something and then land on something and you eat it. It's not good. But sorry, entomology lesson over. We can get back to voiceover
I mean,
now. Sorry.
that's why flies are so annoying. That's why I actually don't like. I kind of just loathe flies even more than spiders. If I'm going to be honest. Also,
I
not
mean,
me Google. Yeah.
they're also important pollinators and like they do serve a purpose, but they are
Hmm.
something to be more concerned about than spiders, I'd say.
Not me Googling spider bites during an interview, and you're right.
I know I'm right.
Yeah, that degree certainly came in handy.
That's what I'm
Look at
saying.
you. Yeah. So, anyways, Maga. Okay, for a moment there, I thought it said manga for a minute, but yeah, tell us more about that, because I'm kind
uh,
of curious myself.
Krav Maga is an Israeli martial art that I trained in for a number of years. It's great actually for it's the best for practical self-defense stuff, which I think most people should learn how to defend themselves, you know? It's
I mean,
it's
of
not
course.
something, yeah, it's not something most of us ever need to use, but it's good to know just, it's good
You
to
never
hone your
know. That's
instincts.
all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my automatic reaction to, oh no, something's about to fall on me is protect my head. Like, that's the skills matter.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Even if you're never gonna
Alrighty.
like take down a bad guy, like it's good
I
to know
mean,
how to preserve yourself.
you never know. I'm just saying. All right, let's go back to VO and let's talk
Hmm.
about some of your roles. Yeah,
Okay.
you've been in like League of Legends, Fire Emblem, Guardian Tales. I've worked with a lot of clients. Um, so for Fire Emblem in
Yeah.
particular, like I know it still is a very large, it's a big franchise. So I'm just like kind of curious as to, at least with Genshin or anything else that you've done, like Rainbow High, Cookie Run, and my phone is going off. Quiet. Let me see. So with any of these, because I know that you're signed with Atlas, which congrats by the way, and
Oh, thank you.
with
They're wonderful.
representation. So I know getting all these auditions and then actually booking these projects, it must have been like insane for you because it's like these are like well-known, you know, this is media that a lot these are like games and shows that a lot of people really love, so I'm just kind of curious about like for any of the roles that you booked, if we were to discuss like your audition, like if we were to get like a one-on-one for a moment, like what is your audition process? I know people is for everybody it's totally different, but um what's your like, I guess, auditioning 101 of getting into character, of booking, and I guess how to stand out from, you know, the hundred thousands of, submissions that are being sent to, companies and clients and whatnot. So, yeah, let's hear your, I guess.
I mean, I don't have anything that specific other than I try and make sure that I'm having fun with it, if that makes sense. Like
Oh yeah,
even with commercial reads, if you're not having fun with it, no one's gonna book you.
yeah.
Because they can
Same
hear that in
goes
your
for
voice.
yeah with
Especially
everything.
video games, especially animation,
Oh yes, yeah,
anything character driven. Yeah, I mean, the main thing you have to do, I think, is obviously they'll in the audition, oftentimes they'll more often than not, they'll provide a character description. Sometimes you get art, sometimes you don't. But like once you kind of get the idea of like what the character is like and what their voice print is meant to be, then you can kind of go into your own like head of like, okay, if I am now this character, who am I? And you just get to play with it and you get to make, I'll say this, m make bold choices. There's a saying
yep,
in the world of acting, especially improv, strong choices, not wrong choices. Um, you I think where a lot of people get tripped up auditioning is they're trying to think of what it's supposed to sound like what the client is looking for, and like to some extent, like in terms of, style of acting, yes, that's important. But what often happens is people will try and like give this performance of like, here's what I think you want, and it doesn't sound like you've committed to any sort of emotion or choice. It just sounds kind of a little middle of the road, like, okay, I guess. You've got to create, take what you know of the character, make it fully formed in your mind, and then make decisions as that character for delivery. If that makes sense. And something that I do a lot, is I mean, when I'm watching animation, when I'm watching dubbing, when I'm watching people play video games, because I'm not very good at playing video games myself, um, I'm paying attention to how the actors delivered whatever lines it is that they have. Um, and I'm studying that, and I'm kind of thinking, oh, that was an interesting choice, or like, I would have delivered this a different way, and sort of forming my own instincts and broadening my horizons on um, styles of acting. So yeah, it's a combination of making your own bold choices and seeing what's out there and what you relate to and what you know how style is constantly evolving. Yeah. Just applying that to auditions.
yeah. And for the roles that you've booked, like I know especially particularly with Fire Emblem and Genshin, um, what has been your overall experience of getting to work um, on all of these really fun projects, and then your experience with the fandom and getting invited, or at least I'm assuming that like when it comes to conventions, which I'll probably get to later, but yeah, your experience of being a part of, like I said, the projects, and then with the fandom and how everybody's been falling in love with these characters that you played, and yeah, just everything of just overall experience of of that stuff.
Uh, yeah, I mean, honestly, getting booked on Fire Emblem was such a fun thing both times around. Because I'm a huge fan of the series. Um, and working with, I mean, the folks over at Nintendo Cup of Tea are amazing to work with. Love getting to work with them. Uh, and yeah, I mean, it's convention wise. I'm I appreciate, I've had some wonderful like fan mail and like fan emails. People are just so kind. I've also had some hateful things said to me because of my gender identity. Um, when it comes to conventions, I appreciate fans, and I think that it's awesome that other voice actors really love doing the convention thing and talking in panels and meeting and signing and all that stuff. And I don't think I'm ever going to be that actor just because of health reasons, because of the fact that our country's public health response to COVID was absolute garbage. And it's
Oh, pop off.
uh-huh.
Seriously.
Uh, so I don't foresee a time, one, where I'm not actively masking in public everywhere I go, and two, where a convention would be a doable thing for me for my health, um, just because I have some health issues and I can't afford to get COVID. So, um, but I went to so many conventions when I was younger as a fan, and I gotta say I loved that. It's a fun. I loved going. It was very fun. Um, but that also factored into my decision to never do them is because every time I would go as a fan, I would walk away with con cred every time without fail. No, pre-COVID, always would get sick. Anyway, so it's just I don't need something airborne. It's it's a decision I'm comfortable with. But I love hearing from fans. I think it's always wonderful um to know that somebody appreciates your work.
Yeah, 100%. Um, and let me see. I don't think there's much more to discuss. Well, as far as like, everything that you're working on, but maybe sometime in the future we may do a part two, so you never know.
Could be fun.
Yes, indeed. Let me see. Anything that you else that you want to share that you want to like put out there, like your socials, last bit of advice, or just anything that you want to, you know, dish out
Uh,
real quick? Just
um,
chill it out.
a um, socials. I mean, I'm on Twitter at GZFernVO. If you want to follow me there, I don't post a lot. Um, Other than that, I think if I had one piece of advice for people who are beginning voice actors, or like just getting into it, um, something that I've seen a lot uh, in sort of greener voice actors is um, everybody has their own inner director in their head going, here's how to deliver this line, or this is the way to do this, and this is how the character would say this. Sometimes the director in session has a different point of view, and that's okay. And I've seen it in classes. I've seen it um, in group sessions before, and it's been sort of jarring. People who don't tend to get their feet up off the ground are people who push back against, like, um, I'll give you an example. I worked a this week that is from the same video game company from another video game I worked last week. Director from last week told me, I love it when you give me A, B reads because your B take is you've always found what you did wrong in the first one and then redirected to exactly what I want. And then the director for the second session said, I don't understand why, but I can only take your A takes because your first instinct is always great and you always correct to something I don't want. None of that has anything to do with necessarily how I'm acting. It's just how that particular director sees that vision for that character or that game. And it could be, you could think, oh, that was a better take. Why didn't they use that one? Well, that's because for this director, the other one was the better take. And let me know if that's not making sense. But I've seen a lot of people fall on their faces by arguing back. And you gotta recognize that that's pride and you gotta swallow it down because it's not, this is a world in which there is no right and wrong way to do it. It's art. There's just the way that the client's vision is going, and you have to help move that forward however you can, and that's by listening. Yeah, that's I think the biggest piece of advice I can give to people is accept direction. And yeah, the people who get hired the most in this industry are the people who are the most directable. Um, you could be the best actor in the world, but if you're hard to work with, no one's going to want to work with you.
Oh,
So,
totally. Yeah. And I guess on that note, that concludes this interview. Thank you so much for stopping by, and it's been a real pleasure getting to have you on, Giselle. Can't wait to see what the future holds in store for you.
thanks so much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
You have any time. And this should be going up at some point over the weekend, so keep on the lookout on my socials and stay tuned for more episodes. This is Robert Jackson, and I'll see you next time on Station Square. Until then, bye for now. Hola. Adios.